The sea is going to keep pouring in. We're going to keep settling deeper and deeper. We may even go under before we get up to the bottom to cut our way out. But it's something to try. It's a chance. We might make it. If you stay here, you'll certainly die. Hi, I'm Bobby, and welcome to Dusty Old Movies. When I was a kid, my stepmom loved showing me disaster movies. We always had plenty of snacks, and we watched Earthquake, The Towering Inferno. Hey, what's cooking? But my favorite was The Poseidon Adventure. It was a disaster movie, but it also had a heart. So let's set sail and review The Poseidon Adventure. Wait, what are you wearing? Just panties. What else do I need? In 1937, the novelist and sports writer Paul Gallico was traveling on the ship the RMS Queen Mary. The water was choppy, and while he was in the first-class dining room, 3 big waves hit the ship, and it rolled over on its side. Everything and everyone was falling! It only lasted a few seconds, but it felt like forever. Then the ship rolled back to normal. Years later, Paul Gallico was thinking, what would have happened if the ship rolled over completely and went upside down? And he wrote the novel The Poseidon Adventure, and Irwin Allen wanted to make it a movie. Irwin was more than a producer. He was a showman, full of ideas. He loved spectacle, adventure, and special effects. In the 1960s, he produced far-out TV shows like Lost in Space, Oh the Pain, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and Time Tunnel. And Poseidon would be his ship back into movies. He oversaw every aspect of production. They did some on-location filming on board the Queen Mary. By the 70s, the ship was no longer seaworthy and was being used as a hotel. But with the aid of wind machines, water hoses, and some camera tricks, it appeared to be out in the ocean. They also built about a 22-foot model of the ship, and, using photographs and blueprints, reconstructed sections of the ship in the studio sound stages, and used a forklift to make it look like it was turning upside down. Most of the movie was shot in order, so that the characters and the actors were getting worn out at the same time. Production was rough. The actors were constantly running, swimming, and climbing through fire, steam, and water. So much so that when they would leave the set, the California smog actually felt good. Not wanting to be outdone by each other, unless it was super dangerous, most of the actors performed their own stunts, and they would actually come in on their off days to watch each other. Irwin was the captain, and the entire cast and crew were on their own Poseidon adventure. It's New Year's Eve, and the ocean liner the SS Poseidon is making its final voyage. At midnight, a huge tidal wave hits the ship, and it rolls over, so it is now upside down. The purser tells everyone to stay where they are, and that help will be on the way. Most people listen to him, but they soon discover that his plan is all wet. Thankfully, Reverend Scott has gathered 9 people together to go through the insides of the ship to get out through the bottom. But with water rushing in, fire, explosions, and other hazards, who will survive the upside-down hell of the Poseidon Adventure? What made the Poseidon Adventure different from the disaster movies of the past is instead of waiting until the end for the disaster happens early on, and then you follow the characters on their fight for survival. And what impresses me so much is how they set up that disaster. They do it in 25 minutes, and they utilize every second of it. During the opening credits, we hear the adventurous Poseidon theme music by John Williams. And yes, that's the John Williams of Lost in Space. We see huge waves surrounding the ship, and we get a written warning about the disaster to come. After the credits, we see the ship rocking, and the captain states that the ship is going too fast for the weather conditions. So the tone and suspense are immediately building. And while that's going on, we go from scene to scene and meet the very large cast of characters. They're all played by big stars. Surely you'll recognize Leslie Nielsen as the captain, but even if you don't, they're stars for a reason. so they're able to instantly create their characters, and with their movie star charisma, you're able to instantly like them. Then, as midnight approaches, it's just like your New Year's Eve party, or at least the one on TV. They're counting down, yelling Happy New Year, drinking, and singing Old Lang Syne. And then on the bridge, the captain sees the tidal wave. What is it, Lookout? On the port bow. I don't know, I've never seen anything like it. An enormous wall of water coming towards us. Hand me my binoculars. Oh my God. Hard left! Close the watertight doors! It's so exciting and scary. The water is rushing in, the captain's gonna drown, in the dining salon, the people are falling and flying all over the place, people are dying. It's great. And it happens at the perfect spot. Because you're not waiting the whole movie for it to happen, but you do have some nice build-up and have time to get invested in the characters, so that you're excited and interested to see their adventure through the ship. Irwin Allen was all about spectacle, and there's plenty of exciting and big special effect moments. But the director and the writer were more into character-driven stories, so you also fall in love with this group. First, there's Gene Hackman as Reverend Scott. He's rebellious, he swears, and has this religious philosophy where it's more about fighting for yourself and for others than actual prayer. So director Ronald Neame shared this philosophy, and it's what gives Scott his intense determination. Next are the Rogos, played by Ernest Borgnine and Stella Stevens. Mr. Rogo is a loudmouth New York cop, and his wife is an ex-prostitute who's just as loud. It's like watching the show The Honeymooners. They fight, she'll call him dummy, but you know they care about each other. Take it easy, baby, I'll be back. Next there's the Rosens, played by Grandpa Joe himself, Jack Albertson, and Shelley Winters. They're traveling to see their grandson, and they give the movie this grandparent warmth and sweet-natured humor. Being a method actress, Shelley gained 35 pounds for the role, and Mrs. Rosen's weight is a recurring joke throughout the movie. Then there's the brother and sister, Robyn and Susan Shelby. When I was a kid, I naturally identified with Robyn. And just like Will Robinson on Lost in Space, he knows everything. He asks the crew questions about the ship, and he's the one who tells the adults where to go, which I remember thinking was so cool. But he's also like a real little boy who fights with his sister. Why don't you shove it? Don't you ever say that to me again! Shove it, shove it, shove it! There's also the reliable waiter Akers, the lonely health nut Martin, and the very needy singer Nani. Sometimes the adventure brings out the worst in the characters. Reverend Scott and Mr. Rogo are both hard-headed leaders, but with opposite points of view. Mr. Rogo being a more by-the-book kind of guy, and they cannot stop fighting. Usually Rogo is wrong, but it's not always clear. We lost Akers. Where the heck were you? What's that supposed to mean? Now look, preacher, I've had just about enough out of you. Who do you think you are, God himself? He was hurt. He needed your protection. All right, he was hurt. He fell. The shaft blew up and he's dead. And that's it. Or do you want to make something more out of it? I said I was going to get everyone out of here, and God darn it, I'm going to do it! The character drama is captivating, but what I like even more is when it brings out the best in the characters. Mrs. Rosen thinks she's a little too plump for this adventure and considers giving up. In fact, when they have to climb through a Christmas tree to get to the next level, she gets stuck, and Reverend Scott has to push her butt to get her through. Manny, I can't, I'm stuck! What's happening? What is that? What's down there? Excuse me for getting so familiar. What else could you do? Mrs. Peter Pan, I'm not! However, when the corridor that they have to go through is flooded, she says, "I used to be a swimming champion," and volunteers to go first and find the route. Reverend Scott is like, "No, I got this." But when he gets stuck, she dives in and saves him. You see, Mr. Scott? In the water, I'm a very skinny lady. The old Tarzan actor Johnny Weissmuller taught Shelly how to swim when she was younger, and the head stuntman for Poseidon Adventure was a former underwater swimming champion, and he gave Shelly 2 months of lessons, so she was able to do the stunt all by herself. You become attached to these characters. When moments like this happen, you feel happy for them. And when tragedy strikes, you feel sad for them. Along with the characters making the movie great, so does how much personality it has. The upside-down sets are groovy to look at. I especially love the upside-down bathroom. There's no CGI. It's all real fire and water, and for the most part, the actors are doing their own stunts. There are memorable moments. There are more funny lines in this than there are in most comedies. And there's even a song, Morning After, which won the Best Original Song Oscar. The dramatic moments were great, but it's also a lot of fun to watch the Poseidon Adventure. The Poseidon Adventure was the highest grossing movie of 1972, and it launched a whole fad of disaster movies. Irwin Allen became known as the master of disaster, and followed up the Poseidon Adventure with another hot property, The Towering Inferno. Shelley Winters was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. She lost the Oscar, but according to her, she was never able to lose that 35 pounds. The Poseidon Adventure has since become a cult classic. There are Facebook groups, screenings, cast reunions, and affectionately done stage satires of the film. There may be more artistic movies out there, but I just love watching these characters go on this adventure. And when they make it at the end, I feel like I make it too. So I give it 4 shove-its out of 4. Shove it, shove it, shove it, shove it! So, have a happy new year, and now it's time for dessert. Pineapple right side up cake.